evening and welcome to this edition of News Leader on 6. Today is Tuesday, June 2nd, 2020. I'm Jim Fuller. In tonight's news, Tullahomians gather to celebrate a local hero's 101st birthday. Tullahoma Board of Mayor and Aldermen held their first in-person meeting, and a Manchester City Hall employee tests positive for COVID-19. We'll have these stories and more on tonight's News Leader on 6.
Hello, I'm Ray Nois. This is a critical time in Tullahoma. On August the 6th, voters will have an opportunity to elect a new mayor, one who can provide proven, experienced leadership, one who knows how to get things done and keep Tullahoma moving. I recognize the value of Tullahoma's excellent school system. Our system is recognized as one of the best in the state, and I'll ensure that our schools continue at that level. I will not vote to raise property taxes in order to have a balanced budget until all other options have been exhausted. I'll work closely with our city staff to ensure that my fiscally conservative values are incorporated. I've served on all city boards involved in economic development. I see that as a way that we can broaden our tax base and avoid a property tax rate increase. Some developers have had issues with our planning and codes department. I'll commit to these improvements. There'll be consistency in the instructions from planning and codes without changes from day to day. And there'll be predictable timelines for providing delivery dates for plan reviews, permits, and inspections. Timelines that will be met reliably. Now, while we can't do much about the traffic on 41A and 55, we can improve our local streets and sidewalks. And this I commit to do. So I ask for your vote for proven, experienced leadership.
My wife Jackie has always been the life of the party. But things changed when she couldn't be as active anymore.
They told me I needed a double knee replacement.
It's not as big a deal as it used to be, but she still needed to go to rehab.
I was amazed at how good the therapists were at Life Care. They took really good care of me.
They took excellent care of her. And now she's back doing the things she loves, and that makes everyone happy.
Life Care Center of Tullahoma wants you to get active and live well.
Welcome back. 101-year-old Army Ranger veteran Tommy Gwynn celebrated his birthday on Sunday with a little help from Jackie Duncan, Rob Norman, and lots of friends.
Well, there's about to be a drive-by, not in the normal sense that we hear about on the news drive-bys. We're going to have a drive-by birthday party. And his friend Rob Norman, Rob takes care of him. I call him Mr. Gwynn's handler. Here he comes now. And Rob takes Mr. Gwynn to a lot of these functions where they want to recognize people who have done great things like him and saved the world almost single-handedly, And I wrote a little poem about him. Says that Hollywood has its. There it is. Says he calls himself the Lone Ranger, and he is the Lone Ranger. He's the last ranger of his battalion that's left. And said Hollywood has its heroes who will deliver in times of danger, but Tullahoma has the real deal. Tommy Gwynn, aka the Lone Ranger, and he is an awesome force. So we just appreciate him so much and want to be a part of this great celebration. There's going to be a drive-by. The cars, a parade will come by and just celebrate him. He's going to sit out here in the yard and just enjoy himself. And he wanted to have a normal big birthday party, but due to the coronavirus and everything, he called me one day and told me, said that he was concerned about everybody's health, and said that he would just go to Captain D's and get him a dinner or somewhere for his birthday dinner. So, but he didn't want to endanger anybody's lives to trying to have a party for him. So he is such an awesome man. I tell you what, that's my hero. There he is. Today is a day of celebration for Thomas Gwynn, Lieutenant Thomas Gwynn. Everybody says local hero, I say world hero, because he's been applauded by the French government, the Korean government, every government, pretty much every world government that had participated in World War II and Korea. Mr. Gwynn, I've known him for over 50 years, and it's been a blessing. I never knew he was a man of this caliber all that time. He was my mother's TV repairman back when I was a young man, and my mother loved him and he loved my mother, and they just, I've grown to love him over the years. And I found out one story that really drew us, I guess ties us closer together was that when I was being born at Camp Forest in the base hospital there, when this was during World War II, at the end of World War II, Camp Forest was here in Tullahoma, and which is now Arnold Air Force Base. When I was being born there in November of 1945, Mr. Gwynn was there also, but he was having dental work done. And little would we know that we'd come together, at some point in life, that where our paths would cross, but God has a way of doing things. But Mr. Gwynn celebrated his 100th birthday last year, and I really got involved in it a little bit more for his birthday party. And he wanted me to be a part of it, and I sure appreciate that because he is such a friend and a hero. And many that don't know his record, Mr. Gwynn was battlefield commissioned. I think he went in as a private and I guess got promoted to a corporal, and then I think on the battlefield he was promoted to a lieutenant. He has a great story. Been wounded 25 times. I know he has 13 Purple Hearts, a French Legion of Honor Merit, Medal of, I forget the correct exact name, but the French Legion of Honor Medal, I believe. Some Korean author wrote a book about him, and his was the only picture in the book. I couldn't read a word of what was in there, but I saw the picture and I knew who it was about. So it's just a blessing to be a part of his life. He's POW twice in Korea, escaped both times. He's just awesome, and he loves to tell his story. So many older people nowadays, even back when I was growing up, my grandfather wouldn't tell much of a story about his life or anything, and maybe he was not proud of everything that had transpired, the way life unfolds sometimes to us. But the bottom line is that Mr. Gwynn, I think he loves these memories, and of course that's all we have at this point in life. Every day is a blessing. Yesterday is history, tomorrow is a mystery, and today is all we really got. The past, really, this moment is all we've got, but the past is all we really have to fall back on. And of course, some diseases rob us of that, and it's a shame, Alzheimer's, that would take away someone's life. That's essentially it, the whole memories. But memories really are all we've got, and Mr. Gwynn, he loves his memories, and I do too, and we love hearing about them. That's the problem this day and age. A lot of people just don't tell their past, or for whatever reason, maybe they don't lay it all down. Everybody needs to know their history, I think. Well, some people don't really care, I guess, but a lot of us do. A lot of us want to know more, and we strive and go to all types of means all the time to research and do these things, but I'm just honored to be a part of Mr. Gwynn's birthday party.
We'll be right back in a moment with more News Leader on 6.
Ah, the glory days. Running to daylight on the gridiron and chasing a ball with a mind of its own. Cheering the team to victory and marching to the beat of your own drum. Memories that last a lifetime. But sometimes we're reminded of our glory days in ways we'd rather forget. Get back in the game. The rehab team at Life Care Center of Tullahoma is ready to help you live and play well.
Welcome back. At Tennessee Governor Bill Lee's latest press conference, he gave us an update about progress being made in the fight against COVID-19.
We issued an overview of administrative actions that we've taken since January to address COVID-19 and also to address the economic challenges that we have as a state. I get to speak with governors across the state every week. And in talking with those governors, I find and I see, and it's been reported, that we're in an enviable position here in Tennessee in many ways because of the response of Tennesseans throughout this. And this enviable position comes even in the midst of not only COVID-19, but weathering 2 natural disasters since March. I want to share some of the high points of our response to all of this since January, especially the work of the Unified Command Group. So just this last week, we reached a benchmark in testing. 400,000 tests have been administered, COVID-19 tests in this state. That means that 6% of our population have stepped forward and asked for a test and have received one. That aggressive effort, by the way, has been made possible in large part as a result of men and women from the National Guard who have stepped up and been a very reliable partner in testing all across the state and continue to do so even today. Throughout this time, we've also had 20 volunteers who have faithfully and full on day and night responded to COVID-19 calls to our hotline, 8,000 such calls. Tennesseans who are concerned about their health and how it is that they can take personal control of their health, and we thank these volunteers. We've also had a great partnership with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. That partnership has allowed us to stand up 450 additional beds besides the beds that we have available in our traditional healthcare system. We also have 1,000 healthcare workers who are on call, stand ready to man those beds should we need it. So we're grateful for that partnership and for the preparation that Tennessee has now for any surge that we see coming later this year or even into the fall. Personal protective equipment is a very important part of the response that we've had. We have shipped 1.4 million pieces of personal protective equipment. TEMA has been a great partner in that effort, and those shipments have been made to first responders and to healthcare workers in all 95 of our counties, multiple shipments to counties across this pandemic, and it's allowed people to be in a position to be safe throughout the COVID-19 challenge. We will continue to take thoughtful, data-backed approach to addressing COVID-19 and to addressing the economic challenges, but I just want to take a moment again to say thank you to Tennesseans. You have done what needed to be done. You have adopted practices, whether it's hand washing or wearing masks or socially distancing or staying home when you're sick. You've done the things that it has taken for us to find ourselves in this position, and we are grateful for the way Tennesseans have responded.
According to the City of Manchester, an employee who works at City Hall tested positive for COVID-19 on Friday. Manchester Mayor Lonnie Norman said, quote, "Our staff across all departments took COVID-19 precautions very early on, and this is an example that anyone can be infected." The employee was last at work on May the 26th, and following the Tennessee Pledge guidelines, had their temperatures checked before entering the building. The employee was informed shortly after entering the building after the Memorial Day holiday that a member within their household was symptomatic. As a result of the positive case, the small staff within that department who had been working with the individual have been sent home to isolate for 14 days. The individual had limited contact with the public and had spent most of their time in an isolated office. Again, citizens are encouraged to use their drop box at City Hall for payments and online at www.cityofmanchestertn.com. City officials are in the process of conducting a thorough cleaning and disinfection of the employee's office and common areas of City Hall. And quote, that's the end quote rather. Mayor Lonnie Norman stated that City Hall remains open and meetings such as the City Board of Mayor and Alderman committees and commissions will continue as scheduled in the month of June, and that the city is striving to balance guidelines provided by the state of Tennessee with public health guidelines for large gatherings within the 50-person limit. Local health officials were contacted regarding the positive test and are following their directives in order to ensure the safety of city employees and citizens. We'll be right back in a moment with more News Leader.
It's not invoice. It's not MSRP. It's not Christmas Day, although it may feel like it. It's the lowest prices in Middle Tennessee, period. Get to Stan McNabb Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram or Stan McNabb Chevrolet Buick GMC Cadillac before these prices are gone forever.
All right, the cat's out of the bag at Carroll Street Liquor in Tullahoma. Now you know where to go if you're planning a get-together and want the ideal wine or spirit. Party planning can be stressful, but at Carroll Street Liquor you'll find everything you need. Mixers, gift sets, and all of your favorite spirit brands. So if you're feeling the pressure to pull off the ideal party, come to Carroll Street Liquor and select among the seemingly endless supply of wines, spirits, gift sets, and more. Your perfect party, it's in the bag with Carroll Street Liquors.
The Tullahoma Board of Mayor and Aldermen held their their first in-person board meeting last night, where the main topic of conversation was the new budget for Tullahoma.
Once again, and for the 15th year in a row, there's no property tax increase, and she will go over the assumptions that she has made in order to prepare this document. So, Ms. Moody, the floor is yours.
It's been a pretty difficult budget year. It's like trying to work with a moving target. And we had a lot of discussion coming into this budget over whether we should even do maybe a continuing budget and kick the can a little further down the road. But at the state's encouragement, they really want to see us pass a budget. So what the approach we've taken has been to be very cautious in how we've budgeted, and I'll go into that in some detail. I would say, as you know, the COVID-19 has really affected us and continues to create a need for us to adjust how we operate and provide services. I'm very proud of our city employees. I feel like they've really risen to the occasion in the face of what are constantly evolving events. Haven't seen them miss a beat doing it, and I really give all the credit to them and the leadership of our department heads who are all here tonight. I always ask them to attend the budget meetings. I believe that we've taken what are reasonable and financially responsible steps to contain costs across the board, while we have maintained our service levels in all of our most essential areas. Our proposed budget is a balanced budget. Now, local governments are legally required to pass a balanced budget, but we are very intentional, I like to point out, in managing our future expenses to what we anticipate our revenues to be. We do anticipate this coming year, as I've told you before, to use some of the city's fund balance, but we have done that in levels consistent with our financial policies. And generally, our budget is contributing to these strategic objectives. We want to be fiscally responsible, responsive, and effective government, creating a vibrant and diverse economy that is safe, sustainable, and a healthy community. So that is what we're trying to do with our budget. Next, talk about revenues. Like I said, that's where we start. If we don't know how much money we're going to have, we can't talk about how we're going to spend it. So we start with our major funds. As you can see, sales tax, property tax, and then those tax equivalents, like the pilot that you passed tonight from TUA, those make up roughly 80% of all our revenues that we collect in a year. That's why we talk so much about property tax and sales tax and how they're affecting us. The other 20% come from those state-shared taxes that are shared back to us at a per capita rate, and then things like the wholesale beer and liquor and all other revenue. So all other charges, fees, interest income, court fines, all of those things make up that last 10%. With only a month remaining in this fiscal year, you will recall we amended the budget, and we've already reduced it down 2.5%, about $760,000. That was to reflect that our property taxes are coming in about 2% below anticipated. Now, we may still collect some of that revenue. We have seen it seems like there's a higher number of delinquent payments this year. But also, I think we feel like we're still feeling the ramifications of losing Goodrich and their property tax dollars in the community. So that's why you see property tax revenue is flat right now. And in our budget, we had anticipated a 2% growth. Sales tax, we anticipated 4%. We're actually up about 5%. We still have 2 months of sales tax collections to receive, but it's been interesting to watch. We're cautiously optimistic. In March, I want to say this right, in May, we collected the revenue from sales in March. And across the state, they were down about 1%. In Tullahoma, we were up 5%. I think Coffee County was up even more than that, about 12%. So probably because we had it better last year than they did, that's my guess. But it's still so volatile. There is no crystal ball on this. We have no actual experience March sales reflected a normal 2 weeks and then a very not normal 2 weeks where COVID was going on. People were being told to stay home. Some people were buying things online. Other people were hoarding. So we're not sure how reliable these figures are going to be. Also, like you know, hotels were doing tremendously. We had visitors, and then doors were shut. So we're seeing that reflected in hotel motel tax. It's trending down about 15% right now, and business taxes are down. And then licenses and permits are up. I really attribute that to the fact that we raised our fees effective January 1 of this year. In March, what we immediately did is start some cost containment strategies. So we put a hiring freeze in place. That meant that any position that was vacant was not filled. We restricted purchasing. We had no new capital expenditures. So all those things went unspent. We haven't hired any of our seasonal part-time. You know, right now, especially gearing up for Splash Island, we would have been hiring about 100 to 150 part-time employees. We haven't hired any of those this year. We also reduced hours for part-time employees pretty significantly. So now we're at a position where at the end of year, we estimate we will only need between $200,000 and $300,000 out of our reserves. It's certainly been a challenging time and to forecast revenues. And again, I'm really proud of this team that has worked together, especially our finance director, Sue Wilson. And I feel like all of the essential needs are met right now.
All those in favor, vote green. Opposed, vote red.
Alderman Berry needs to vote. There you go.
Motion passes 7-0.
We'll be right back in a moment with more News Leader on 6.
When your family suffers the loss of a loved one, the caring and compassionate staff at Tullahoma Funeral Home and Coffee County Funeral Chapel are standing by to assist you in every way possible. We are proud to support local industry and offer only Batesville caskets. Many funeral homes don't own or operate a crematory. We utilize the only crematory in Coffee County. Your loved one never leaves Coffee County. We can accommodate any need and any budget. Consider our complete pre-need service to remove this burden from your family during their time of grief. Lock in today's low costs and protect from inflation. Tullahoma Funeral Home and Coffee County Funeral Chapel. Our family caring for your family.
Here at NAB Collision Center, we work with all major insurance companies, and we get the job done right the first time, on time.
Well, I grew up in Tullahoma. We'd always done business with NAB, so when we needed collision service after a run-in with a deer, we knew to call those guys. We already had trust with them. We called Cody. He took great care of us. He kept us posted every step of the way, and we couldn't have been more pleased.
Getting your vehicle back to pre-loss condition shouldn't be a headache. So in the event of an accident, contact me, Cody Hall, at NAB Collision Center.
Welcome back. Governor Bill Lee and Dr. Lisa Piercy recently announced a new COVID-19 mental health program for frontline workers.
This public health crisis has had many adverse effects, particularly with regard to mental health on many Tennesseans. Stress and anxiety and depression associated with the challenges that come along in life through a period of time like this. It takes its toll on folks, especially on first responders and on healthcare workers, people who are on the front lines dealing specifically with COVID-19. And so Commissioner Marie Williams from our Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services will be coming up in a minute to give a report about a hotline that we have created specifically for frontline workers.
Governor Lee, we're so grateful to be able to announce today the launch of a new public-private partnership which will allow Tennessee healthcare workers that are dealing with anxiety and stress to be able to call and speak to someone from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. every day of the week. Again, that's 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. every day of the week. The number to call that we'll be announcing is 888-642-7886. In the spirit of the volunteer state, this line is made possible due to the volunteer efforts and hard work of our Deputy Commissioner Matt Yancey, his work with the State Mental Health Active Response Team, the National Association of Social Workers, Tennessee chapter, as well as the host for the line, which is the Tennessee Alcohol and Drug Association, named TADIS. As you know, Governor, across the state as well as other states in the nation, there has been a marked increase in crisis calls as well as increase in prescribing rates for anti-anxiety and antidepressant medications. Our local community behavioral health centers across the state have been manning crisis lines for the last almost 15 years, and they're available 24/7. You can text 741-741 to speak to them if you're in the need of a crisis intervention. We also know that medication alone is not the answer, and that it's very important to be able to talk to someone about what is going on and be able to share your concerns and your care so that maybe someone could help intervene with that. This emotional support line will serve as a special lifeline for our state's healthcare workforce and first responders who have given so much. Again, the number is 888-642-7886. Thank you.
Thank you.
And don't forget to tune into this week's Tullahoma Living Show tonight at 6:30 p.m., Thursday morning at 9 a.m., and Thursday, Friday, and Saturday evening at 6:30 p.m. This week's guest will include Tony Castellano, who plays some music for us, and Martha Hood will come by to talk about this week's South Jackson Goes Country. We'll have these stories and more on this week's Living. We'll be right back in a moment with your weather forecast.
We're losing it, Doctor.
Not on my shift. Quickly, brush. Roller.
What a transformation. It's got to be okay.
Okay, nothing.
At Paintworks of Tullahoma, we specialize in domestic emergencies with Martin Senior Paints. You can be the paint doctor, too, when you treat your home with Martin Senior interior and exterior finishes.
Doctor, we've got another one.
Got you covered.
Paintworks of Tullahoma. Come see the paint doctor, Stat.
Welcome back. We'll take a look at your weather forecast at this time, starting with your weather history on this day. Our record high was in 1925 at 94 degrees. The record low was in 1956 at 44 degrees. Average high on this day is 81, and the average low is 59. Mostly clear weather expected tonight with a low of 66. Isolated storms in the forecast for Wednesday with a high of 86 and a low of 67. Thunderstorms in the forecast for Thursday with a high of 80 and a low of 66. And that's our newsletter report for this evening. We invite you to join us each Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday at 6, 8, and 10 for News Leader on 6. You have a good evening.